everyone, I'm Angela and I'm here to bring you another video as part of our series for Women's History Month. This one's about Dorothy Pullinger. In 1921, Light, Car and Cycle magazine, there was a report describing the factory at Tunland where the Galloway car, designed by Dorothy Pullinger, was made. It read, "On the way up to Scotland, I called at Kirkcudbright, where the Galloway car is being made in the middle of nowhere. I wondered what the employees did in the way of recreation and was informed the factory has 2 tennis courts on the roof. A bathing pool and swimming pool has also been constructed. Everybody is most enthusiastic about the company's hockey team. The majority of the hands are girls. I think the Galloway car may be described as a car made by ladies for those of their own sex." Dorothy Pullinger was born in France on the 13th of January 1894. She was the eldest child of 12 children to the prominent engineer Thomas Pullinger and his wife Aurélie. The family moved to England when Dorothy was 8, where she had to learn English since her French had been her first language. In 1909, Dorothy's father went to work for Arroll Johnson in Paisley, Scotland's largest and oldest car manufacturer. Their car factory was a conversion from one of Paisley's famous cotton mills. Dorothy had grown up around engineering, but it was an uphill struggle for her to be, from the very beginning, for her to be accepted as an engineer herself. After taking a secretarial course to appease her father, Dorothy managed to persuade him to allow her to work in the drafting office at the Paisley factory. Women were often employed as tracers, which is basically a kind of human photocopier, but they really did not normally become apprentice engineers, so this was very unusual. In 1912, Thomas Pullinger began work on a new factory at Heath Hall in Dumfries. He had visited America to learn about the new mass manufacturing techniques and processes and employed an American company to help build the new factory at Heath Hall. The factory opened in 1913 and the family moved to Dumfries in 1914. At about this time, Dorothy applied to join the Institute of Automobile Engineers, but she was rejected. In their rejection letter, they told her, "The word person means a man and not a woman." I definitely wouldn't take that, but those were different times. Anyway, the First World War saw the beginning of a change to such attitudes. In 1916, at the grand old age of 22, Dorothy was headhunted by Vickers to become the lady superintendent of their armaments factory at Barrow-in-Furness. Many of the 7,000 women strong workforce she oversaw there were Belgian and French refugees from the war. She was partly headhunted for her language skills as well as for her engineering skills. After the war, she received an MBE for her work at Vickers and helped found the Women's Engineering Society, all at the age of just 26. In 1920, Dorothy persuaded her father to let her use the Tunland factory to build cars. It had been built during the war to make parts for the factory at Heath Hall, while doubling as a kind of college of engineering for women. Dorothy wanted to retain the highly skilled workforce that had been trained there during the war and hoped to continue using the factory in its role as a college too. She founded a 3-year engineering apprenticeship there for that purpose. Bear in mind that most apprenticeships at the time, engineering apprenticeships, were 5 years. They decided it would be a 3-year apprenticeship because women were faster learners. Because the Galloway car was designed with women drivers in mind, it was quite different to the standard of the time. It was smaller and lighter, while still managing to have more storage space. It had a shorter wheelbase and was lower to the road. Its seats were raised and its dashboard was lowered. The gear stick and the handbrake were put between the driver and passenger seats. Fancy that. The seats were movable and the rear view mirror came as standard. Apparently before this, women were suggested to go and get their makeup mirrors and drive one-handed whilst looking in the mirror to see behind them. I don't know what men did, but that's crazy. Anyway, Dorothy was also a keen race car driver. She entered the Galloway car in the Scottish 60 trials in 1924, which was a gruelling 900-mile set of trials designed to push cars to their limits and prove their reliability. A lot of people weren't sure about the reliability of cars at that time because cars were really still very new. Dorothy won a silver cup for finishing the trials without fault. And another driver, W. Bill Baker, won a gold medal in a Galloway car. The Galloway was built at Tunland from 1920 to 1923, then at Heath Hall until 1928, when Arrol Johnston folded as a car manufacturer. In the end, about 4,000 Galloway cars were made, of which 16 still survive today, including one at Glasgow's Riverside Museum, so you can go and check that one out. Dorothy went on to manage two very successful laundry firms, one in London and then another one later on in Guernsey, using the latest steam technologies and steam power. During the Second World War, she helped to set up the Women's Industrial War Work Programme and became the only woman appointed to the industrial panel of the Ministry of Production. During this time, she also ran 13 munition factories around Scotland. After World War II, she moved to Guernsey, where she became notorious for her driving around the island. She passed away there in 1986. Dorothy Pullinger was a strong and determined woman who knew the value of other women being involved in engineering, as well as the value of engineering with women in mind. Many women across Dumfries and Galloway would have either been employed, trained, or simply inspired by her during her time. So it's fitting that we keep her memory alive to inspire future generations of young women in engineering and future generations of young women in Dumfries and Galloway. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a thumbs up below, and I will see you next time. Bye!